are here with another episode of the Layer Podcast. This will be my first episode from the bottom to the top. How did you go from the bottom to the top? Who are you? What is your story? I'm here to bring on anybody and everybody that has stories of themselves of where they came from. Today, I have one of my best friends who's helped me become to who it is that I am today. He's done tremendous amount of work on e-commerce, building his brand to $1 million in his first 12 months. He's now coaching people to do the same, following the same steps that he took to get there. I was a part of that process, and his name is Mike Kimbrough, and he's here to share his story. And I just can't wait to hear everything about him so the world can know exactly who this man is. So Mike Kimbrough, man, welcome.
What's up, Woody? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm good.
Man, I'm glad we finally got this together to do this podcast, because it's, like I said, like I was talking to Eric about on the first one, we've been working on this project for a minute.
Yep.
And I'm just happy that we finally got it to where we needed it to be. So I'm excited to be here, man, and definitely discuss my journey with you, most of what you know. I always say things in podcasts that even the closest people to me don't know, you know what I mean, that may surprise you. But yeah, I'm just excited to talk about my story, and especially with the fact that you're involved in a lot of it. So just to kind of recap this thing the way we used to do when we used to ride bikes, and at 4:00 in the morning, we would end up at White Castle talking about the very thing that would we were just talking about this, that would actually go longer talking about the night than the actual night itself. So that was fun. Just excited to be here with you.
Yeah, man. And we're going to get into all of that. Here it is today. You are known as one of those e-commerce gurus, which you are.
Right.
This is 2025 that we're in. And you are living, in my eyes, a legend, bro. Like to go from what it is that we became, where we were at, to where we are now is remarkable.
Yeah.
And what I want to do before we get to that, let's backtrack.
Okay.
Like, and our bike riding and all of that. But let's go a little bit further back. Like, for the world that don't know who Mike Kimbrough is, talk about you growing up, you know, your family, siblings, you know, your whole entire story. Let's get to know who Mike Kimbrough is, and how, because all of that is about your story.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
how you got to who it is that you are right now.
Right. No, absolutely. Man, my story is unique to me, and I think it kind of resonates with a lot of people. The kind of, you know, the way my story went, came from a huge family, 5 sisters and 2 brothers. I'm the youngest out of 8 kids. And really, you know, I came up in a situation that wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst either. I'm not a poverty-stricken person, you know what I mean? I didn't live in the hood per se, but it was hood, if you know what I mean. So I definitely had an upbringing that was, you know, definitely spiritual. You know, my mother and my father was definitely spiritual people. They taught me all the right things. My sisters and my brothers, everybody was attempting to do the right thing. I was just that one that happens to be that person, just being the youngest. I'm a product of both generations, right? I'm a product of, I would say, what are we Gen X? What are we Gen Z? Something like that.
Gen X,
one of the two. Whatever we are, I'm a part of the ones right before that, which was like the baby boomer industry. You know what I mean? And as well as, you know, what we are today. But I think that's the reason why I think I've done so well, is because I got like some old school upbringing and some of the new school in itself as well. But mother died when I was 17, played basketball my whole life, and I thought I was going to make it to the NBA. You know, that was my main thing, just playing basketball. I never thought about doing anything other than that. So the reason why I am so passionate about this now is because I see a lot of athletes, basketball players specifically, that we go all the way into our 30s still thinking that we're, you know, still chasing that dream, whether obviously not the NBA no more in 30s, but it's like, okay, we still trying to get overseas, all this type of stuff. And we miss out on a lot of, you know, what your average person was able to do at an early age, which was get a job, get their credit score fixed and all of that type of stuff. We thinking we gonna get in the NBA. So we like, man, we not thinking about that. We ain't had no job. We ain't really had no real relationships or anything like that. So that's why I tell people, like, now I encourage young athletes now to start getting into, what you think you might be doing after the sport.
Right.
Start working on that now, because you never know when you're gonna have to use it, or you get an injury or something like that. And I just don't like people. I don't want people to waste their lives kind of the way I wasted mine up until I came into, not this point, because obviously, we did transportation and all of that. I did that for 11 years, but still, like, I didn't start that until I was 28 years old, right? Most people are already married, kids, career, all of that. I'm just starting. I really started life at 28.
Wow.
So
did you ever think that you would be making, because obviously we'll get into that, because when I actually kind of like first met you, it was kind of like on a basketball court at where we were working at, which was the golf course.
Yeah.
But right now, did you ever think that you would be making the same amount as some basketball players? Like, cause that's what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. I always knew I would make a lot of money doing something. I never equated it to like millions of dollars or anything like that. I just knew that I was going to be okay. Right. But like I told Eric, it's one thing I was telling Jay on earlier today, my son, and everything he's doing right now with e-commerce and just the digital marketing space, he's clipping and all that type of stuff. And I was telling him, like, man, one thing I said, Jay, one thing you've always heard me do is speak things into existence, right?
Yep.
And Eric knows this. Before I even started Paralift, 2 years before I started Paralift, I told something to Eric. I said, Eric, I'm going to mass produce a product. And Woody, I don't even know if you know this, but I literally told this man, I'm going to mass produce a product. I didn't know what it was, but I said I wanted to mass produce a product. And I even gave him little ideas here and there or whatever, but I was so confident about that I was going to do that. Then I think I made the universe bend to my command.
Right.
And 2 years later, it happened, right? Mass produce a product, made millions off of that product. And Eric brought it to my attention maybe like a year later. Matter of fact, Eric, you told me this at the $1 Million Party. I actually said, Mike, you talked about this too. You said, you talked about this 2 years ago. And I'm like, damn, I did say this.
Into existence.
Like, I really said that I was going to do this. And I actively started like working on things. But even though you don't necessarily have to start working on something, right? Sometimes the universe will run you into it.
Right.
But this is why I also tell students that I teach, like, you may see gurus up and down the screen all day. And I tell people all the time, when I meet people, they say, what do you do? I said, I'm one of them people that look like they're a liar online. That's what I use. And they always crack up every time I tell them that. And the reason why I say that is because most of us have the stigma of this lavish lifestyle and the fancy cars and all of that, and everybody think that we're lying.
Right.
And that's the reason why people don't sign up, or people miss their opportunity of the things that they were talking about in the universe, because God will bring somebody down your screen that looks like it's a lie or too good to be true.
Yeah.
But it's people that have made millions of dollars doing that. Now, the way they showcase it is not always right, and that's the reason why I'm not a flashy guy, because I understand that even though I'm the type of person that's attracted to that, I never wanted to be the type of person that people were attracted to that too.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Got you.
I wanted to come off as the guy that was more relatable, and that's why I started teaching when I made my first $1.5 million opposed to being 20 million up, because I didn't want to make everything seem unattainable.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah.
Good. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I know you personally.
Yeah.
We grew up together. I know where you came from. But for those people that, like, as far as trust is concerned,
Yeah.
let's dig a little bit into your spirituality.
Okay.
I didn't realize this, but maybe about 5 years after we met.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, if not all, but most of your siblings are names from the Bible. Is that correct? Like, what is everybody's name, and where did all of this start from?
You know what? I know my brothers are. I don't know if my sisters are.
Okay.
But I know the boys are. You know, we Mark, Luke, and John.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
So we're the first couple of books of the New Testament. That's where that came from. But like I said, my father was a deacon in the church. My mother was a missionary. She had just got her license to, really start preaching and things like that. And like I said, they've always instilled that in us. And that's something that I carry to this day. And that's where my integrity comes from when I teach. I I feel obligated to do it, like I said, because I ran into my mentor and, that was the way I changed my life. So although I like I said on the last podcast, I really don't like coaching at all.
Mm-hmm.
I do it because somebody was there to do it for me. But that's also the reason why I do it with so much. I coach with spirituality. I always put spirituality in my coaching. I tell people how God brought me from here and brought me into this situation. And in certain scriptures that I use too as well. Like I tell all the time, when he said be fruitful and multiply, he wasn't just talking about kids.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? He was talking about money as well. He was talking multiply your gifts, multiply your your supplies, your goods. So whatever it is that you have, your income, multiply that. That dish didn't go under kids. And people use that as an excuse to go out and have 50 kids and they ain't got no income.
Right.
They ain't got no income. Like, it doesn't make sense. You're putting your kids in a worse space than you grew up in because you're just using that scripture to say, oh, okay, I can have as many kids as I want. And you can, but do both.
Yeah.
Multiply both.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Hey, man, that's good. One of the things I want to touch a little bit even deeper, because a lot of people see you now,
Right.
and they don't know you like, oh, he just one of them people that got lucky. You know what I
Right.
mean? Not knowing your trials and tribulations of life.
Right.
That is everything that you're talking about now that has gotten you to get to that point.
Okay.
One thing that you just mentioned, that you lost your mom at an early age.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that? Because you got people now that are going through those same things.
Right.
How did you overcome that to become what it is that you now? How are you dealing with it currently?
I never overcame it.
Mm.
I still haven't overcome that. But that's something that I use to push me. My mother was the person in my family that was, doing everything and taking care of, obviously her and my father taking care of 8 kids, and my mother was still going to school and all of that. So when she passed away, I was the one that had to do a lot. I was the last person in the house when she passed away. So me and my father, he didn't check out, but for the most part, obviously he lost his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So, he didn't have the mental availability to tend to a 17-year-old that just lost his mom.
Okay.
Right. So a lot of that stuff I really had to do for myself and make sure I was good myself. But me kind of planning her funeral, writing obituary and things like that, that turned me into a man very, very fast.
Wow.
Very, very fast. And from there, it was like, okay, I don't have anybody no more. I felt like I was the only person that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Went directly into college right after that. And I tell a story about something that kind of changed the trajectory of my career. People don't know that when Dwayne Wade was at Richards High School, there was a coach there named Coach Adams that coached him. And when Dwayne Wade left as a senior, Dwayne Wade's little brother was still there, Lester or whatever. And Coach Adams, when Dwayne Wade left, he came over to coach me. I transferred from Tinley Park back to Thornwood. Yeah. So he came over there to coach me. And he always would tell me, you remind me of Dwayne. And he was like, the only difference is your attitude, right? And I remember him one time that Dwayne Wade's brother at the time was playing for South Suburban College, and he brought me to that game because he said he wanted me to talk to Dwayne. And this when Dwayne was at Marquette. He had Prop 48. It was his freshman year. Dwayne Wade didn't play his freshman year, and he told Dwayne Wade to come to the game or whatever. He came, and when he came, he told me and Dwayne Wade to go talk, and we sat at the top at South Suburban High School. And I remember him having a conversation. I had no idea he was going to become a Hall of Famer or anything like that.
Wow.
He was just Dwayne Wade from Richards, and he was a star, don't get me wrong, but I just remember not really listening to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I remember. I remember not really listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that would let me know that, like, I'm like, man, I have a problem, right? And where I'm going with this is that when my mom died when I was 17, there was an incident that changed the trajectory. So, like I said, Dwayne Wade's assistant coach was my high school assistant coach as well. And when I left, they were sending me to a college called Lincoln. Lincoln was connected to Marquette because Marquette was recruiting me. So they wanted me to play there for a year and then go play with Dwayne. That was the path that they had set out for me. And I remember I was in one of the little camps or whatever, my first day there, and I was playing against a player he was already a sophomore. He was getting ready to graduate from junior college. He was finna go Division I. And he was strong as an ox. I just remember he was 19 years old. Man looked like he was 30, right? And he kept putting me in the post. And he kept scoring on me. And it was the first time that I felt defeated, right? And I got so mad that he was scoring and he was talking so much shit. And I did not have the man strength to be able to handle that. So what I did was he scored on me that last time, and I grabbed a ball and I kicked it into the stands. And when I did that, I knew right then and there, I said, yeah, I blew it.
Yeah.
I blew it. Sure enough, when I got back to school that Monday, my coach was like, what happened? What do you do? I said, what happened? He was like, well, they don't want you anymore.
Dang.
What did you do? I'm like, I kicked the ball, man. You know what I mean? So he's like, well, that's really all we had. Because when I transferred from Thornwood, nobody knew who I was, right? I made so much noise that year that a lot of colleges had already chosen the guards that they were going to take. Mm-hmm. So what we had a special deal. Hey, Mike, we're gonna send you to Lincoln. The only one we got is Marquette because of Coach Adams. That was Coach Dwayne Wade. He came over and coached you, so you got that connection. So we got Lincoln to take you because they're gonna groom you, and then they're gonna send you to Marquette after that.
Wow.
So, yeah, I blew that because of my attitude, and I think that part right there saying that was the beginning of me not being over my mom. Mm-hmm. Because if I had her, right, I think everything would have been a little bit differently after that.
Yeah, you'd have been a little bit more controlled.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny because, like what you were saying earlier, and just hearing your story leads into kind of like how we met.
Okay.
At the golf course.
Right.
For those of you that don't know, we were caddies when we were younger. And I was, one of the top caddies there. Always was one of the top caddies there.
Always.
It was just something in me that I wanted to just be the best at what it is that I was doing. And one day this guy came up there, and we had like a little basketball court in the back, and you don't even know this, but you do know this part, but you don't know the second part.
Right.
Aaron Starling, God rest his soul. We lost him.
Yeah.
And he was one of the guys that, as far as hooping was concerned, me and him would always go toe to toe.
Right.
If I wasn't winning, he was winning. He was always beating everybody in the back.
And vice versa.
So I come off the golf course and I'm on my way to the back, and Byron was like, "Hey, Wood, you got to come back here, man. This dude Mike, man, he got Aaron all messed up. You know what I mean? He's killing them on the basketball court." So instantly I get mad.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what's going on, man?
Right.
I come back, I see you crossing them up. He's sliding all over the place. We had gravel back there.
Right, it was gravel,
in the
yeah.
rocks. And I get out there and I do my best to slow you down.
Yeah.
And I was a little better than Aaron as far as stopping.
But
right.
I
did not know I was dealing with a professional basketball player at the time. And that was just fun, man. And it led into how we met.
Right.
You know, and our story. And like as far as what you were talking about with the motorcycles.
Right.
You know, and that was good because you saw who I was then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with as far as stepping up and just being over and better than everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and that was cool. And then what happened after that is, I believe we met at the matter of fact, it was AutoZone.
It was AutoZone, yeah.
On the motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's when we linked up years later. And we got into the story that you was talking about. Man. We used to ride them bikes all night.
All night, man. All night.
Just talking to women, you know, never did nothing crazy, but that was some of the funnest times of my life. Even till today.
Yeah.
You know, we would be out riding all night.
Yeah.
And what people don't know is we never did nothing crazy.
Never did. Never did anything crazy.
It was just fun. You
it
know?
was.
And we would sit up there and literally talk till the sun came up.
Mm-hmm.
We did more talking about what happened that night
Then
at the White Castle
at the White Castle
than we did that entire night.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's how our story kind of began, you know? So
before you, but I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I want to talk about you a little bit at the golf course. So it was a 2-part thing, right? You know, I was known that you came in like, who is this hooper,
man.
right? And you was like, man, I'm finna stop this guy, right? I came in knowing you as being one of the best caddies there. So I'm like, who is this nigga Woody? You know what I mean? That's getting $400 tips and all of this type of stuff and barely working. And that's when I realized right then and there, I said, okay, this guy, I seen your confidence then, you know? And I'm like, I don't like this guy. You know what I mean? I like him, but I don't like him. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a hater thing, but it was like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? Because every place I had went to, I was always known as that guy, the man. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking I'm finna come here and I'm finna do the same thing. Like I'm finna be the best caddy and I'm finna be the #1 basketball player here. Well, I had another thing coming with you, boy, because you definitely was that guy. And that confidence, bro, that you had then, it's never changed.
Yeah.
It's never changed. Even bringing it up to the motorcycle thing, right? Listen, it's so funny, man. I'm like, this guy is just always better than me at something, right? So, because you know what I mean? Like, I have been riding bikes. I've been trying to get a bike since I was a kid or whatever. I finally get my bike. I think my bike is just so cold, right? I had what was that? It was a CBR. I had the CBR F3, right?
Yeah. Was that the red one?
Nah, that was
the blue one.
That was the purple, yellow, and black.
I remember.
Joint, right? That was my
do.
first bike. And I thought that bike was so cold, man. I just did it. I had my little bike. I'm good. You know what I mean? I pull up to matter of fact, I was just doing like another little, you know how we do little test rides when we get our bikes.
Yeah.
I had just got that bike 3 days ago.
Yeah.
3 days ago. And I was getting off the E-way, just practicing a little bit. And I was coming around Kezi or whatever, and I see this raw ass red, black, and white Honda at AutoZone. So I pulled up and I'm like, I'm finna wait on whoever this is to come out because I'm like, I want to ask him about this bike because this bike is just raw as hell, right? Man. I'm waiting and guess who walks out? This nigga. I'm like, man, Woody, man, I should have fucking known, man. I should have known. I'm like, he would have this damn bike, man. That shit was clean, man. And I'm like, man, I'm looking at his bike and I'm just like, I gotta get another fucking bike.
Bro,
man.
how long did it take you to get the blue one with the gold?
Nigga, 3 days. You literally I got a bike 3 days before that, and you made me change my bike within a week.
Oh man,
I had to get something better. I couldn't ride with you like
you
that.
Was done.
I couldn't do it, man.
Bro, that was hilarious,
I couldn't do it,
man.
I couldn't do it.
And you know what's
Pissed.
crazy, man? That blue and gold bike was cold because my bike was cold, but it was stock at that time.
It was stock, right?
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you had that. You bought that one with
Custom.
that little gold at the bottom.
Custom
man. It was
already.
custom.
Mm-hmm.
And man, we was excited about that. And then I had to do the next thing to that bike that just tore the whole city.
Just blew the whole city away, man.
You know, that white and gold bike, man. We gotta make sure we put a picture up.
No, we go. It should be an overlay coming up right now.
Yeah.
When we that bike was cold, man.
Yeah, man. But that's crazy, man. And you know, we still do this now. Like, people don't know this. We are so competitive with everything.
Everything.
It's a fun hate type of thing though. Like, I love this dude, but I don't really, you know what I mean? Because he's always trying to one up me on stuff, man, and I hate it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like we always say, iron sharpen iron,
right?
And it is going to get to where we are now.
Right.
You know, we giving y'all this for a reason,
right?
You know, and it leads up until now. But I got an even funnier story too, man, because this bothers you too, and I love it. I still think about it to this day.
What's that?
When we used to ride. And this dude, he used to always be like, we had this thing with the women, right? And it really didn't mean nothing, but we wanted the best of the best.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we would always try to talk to the best ones and see who can get what.
Right.
And I'll never forget, man, it was this one girl and this is when you opened up to me. And you had to like bow down because it really had got to you, man. Do you remember we was over there on Randolph? Man, I can't even think of the girl name, man.
Well, you talking about the doctor, the girl?
Yes,
in the red.
Yeah,
it was Ashley.
Ashley.
Yeah, it was Ashley. Yeah.
So this chick, man, she was so bad that it had both of us lost for words. Like,
well, first of all, before you even finish the story, what was our pack? We made a pack.
Oh, the pack was let them choose.
Well, but even before that, the pack was we wasn't gonna actually do anything. Right, because you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we had situations that we wasn't going to allow it to go further than just conversation. So even though y'all seen what my bike looked like at this point and how it never was intentions to go there.
Right.
So we had that bond anyway.
Right.
You know, so this was just about me and him having fun.
Exactly.
But this Ashley chick, like, we had so many different chicks that we either ride on the bike or whatever. But this Ashley chick was so cold, and our other pack was we never wanted to step on the other person's toes,
right? Because
we didn't really care. You know what I mean? It
was just a
thing.
Yeah.
So, man, this chick was cold, and it was over there on Randolph. We was down there in the middle of the intersection, and we both wanted to talk to her, but we like made her choose. Right. You know what I mean? So now it's another competition. This is me versus him thing again.
Yep.
And she chose me. And the look on your face, you know what I mean, was like, damn, here we go again. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, man, I remember that night he was like, bro, I ain't never thought this about anybody of my guys, you know, but I think you might have gotten me, man. I think he was like, I think that you might just have me with the look and everything, man. And I was like, yeah, I kind of agreed, but I didn't care.
Right.
But she was so cold, it messed us up.
It messed us. It tore us up.
You know,
it tore us up. That was different. Ashley was different, man.
She was.
She was. That's when we first realized. I said, yeah, these bikes is dangerous, man.
Yeah.
Riding these bikes is that there's nothing we couldn't do.
Yeah.
It was nothing we couldn't do.
Yeah. I mean, that's our history of how we met so let's get into now. So we ain't gonna touch on the transportation. We both did very well with the transportation.
Right. Yeah.
That was really good. But from there, let's get into what took place with you with the transportation, and how did you ended up becoming really homeless? You know,
right.
How did that all transpire?
So I had a transportation company for 11 years, and what I figured out early about transportation, I had to create different ways in order to profit, because it was just so many different guidelines that they had us doing. Different type of insurances, workers' comp, all type of stuff, where it was like, dude, we paying for all of this stuff, but y'all not even giving us enough trips. So eventually what I started doing is I just started fabricating shit. I started fabricating my documents. I started fabricating my vehicle registrations and all of that type of stuff. Now, I wouldn't do it forever. I would just do it until, like, to get it through, right? Because every 6 months it was like, you got to upload credentials and all that. You got to redo everything, right? So you it's like you got to spend damn near $10,000 every 6 months, right? And what I would do is I learned how to fabricate everything and push everything through to get it approved so that, all right, cool. Now I can do this on my own time. All right, now next week I'll go get that vehicle registered. Then a week later I get that vehicle really registered and get this insurance and get that insurance. So I mapped it out. Like I kind of coursed it out so that I wouldn't spend that whole 10 grand at one time, right? But what ended up happening is it ended up catching up to me. Is because at one point in time when they did like an audit or something like that, at one of those times I was trying to map it out, I didn't have insurance at the time that they was in question. Right. So what ended up happening was they ended up taking away my Medicaid ID number, which completely killed every single contract. Everybody got the alert that same day. Do you remember that day, bro?
Yeah. Yep.
That day was fucked up.
Terrible.
Honestly, you talk about a gut shot.
Yeah.
One day lost everything within like a span of 2 hours.
Yep.
Every single contract, MTM, right?
First
Logisticare, First Transit, nigga, even the new one that we had, Secure. Every single one of them called me literally within an hour, basically saying that they couldn't work with me no more.
Wow.
Right? What I do though, I got on the phone instantly with you. Got on the phone with First Transit because I had a plug with, what was his name? I forgot his name. Chris
Pension.
Chris Penson, right? I said, Chris, do me a favor, because we was already running side by side, right? And this was the beauty of what we did. And this is the benefit of having a friend that you go into business with. I always encourage people. People say, don't start business with family and friends and all that stuff. I beg to differ, right? Because what happened was, when I led you guys into starting that company, you guys started up Arnetta's or whatever, right? And followed the same blueprint of TaylorMade. And we was running we was running together, right? People didn't even know that. And TaylorMade transportation, patients would be in Arnetta vans. Arnetta patients would be in TaylorMade vans, right? If they was in the same area, they was getting picked up, right? That's how we ran it up.
Actually was very fluid.
Oh, we was very fluent with that. That was
vehicles everywhere.
We had vehicles everywhere. That shit was brilliant. I ain't gonna lie. That was brilliant. And that could have turned up a lot if TaylorMade didn't go to shit, right? So what ended up happening when TaylorMade went to shit, I ended up calling Chris, which one of the dispatchers that dispatch all the work or whatever. Chris would give us trips that was purposely close by each other so that we could put 4 or 5 people in the same vehicle and go to one location, right? So I told Chris, I said, man, Chris, TaylorMade just lost his Medicaid ID number. I need you to take all of TaylorMade's trips and give it to Arnetta's, right?
Never missed a beat.
Never missed a fucking beat. Never missed a beat, right? So we saved that one contract because obviously, we didn't have, I didn't have like plugs in every single market, right? I only had a plug with First Transit. So we did that and we ended up doing that, kept going or whatever. And eventually what happened was that when COVID came, everything just started to go down, right? And even Arnetta's, we wasn't getting a lot of trips, everything like that. And people were scared to ride with each other. And I didn't have a lot of money saved at the time. And I ended up getting so far behind on bills that I ended up eventually getting evicted out of my apartment at the time. And all I had at the time was one van left. And I had to like put all my stuff out in the van, and a lot of stuff was out on my lawn, to be honest with you. And it was so funny, my girlfriend at the time, she the one told me, you know what I mean?
Oh, she seen that your stuff was
she
kicked out before you?
Yeah,
Wow.
She the one told me. So that was very, very embarrassing. But all in all, I took that and I continued to work or whatever, because I was still driving vans under, Arnetta's or whatever. But what I told myself, I said, man, I gotta figure this out, man. And it made me start going back to what I had told Eric a year before that. I'm like, I really want to mass produce a product, and I just really, really don't know how. I don't know how. And what ended up happening is, on one of those trips, I had just got evicted, and I had been out on the street for at least 3 days now, just living out my car. Y'all didn't even know that at the time. You know what I mean? And I end up getting a call from this guy named Rob. I used to drive limos.
I remember this.
Right. So I used to drive limos for a couple of years, whatever. So I hadn't talked to Rob in like 8 years. And I would see him on Facebook or whatever, here and there, whatever. I didn't even know I had, but I had the same number for a long time. And I remember doing a trip. I was at Trinity Hospital on 93rd Street over East. And I was wheeling somebody in with a wheelchair. And I remember having my phone on my ear like this. And I'm wheeling the person in. And I'm like, who the fuck is this? You know what I mean? I'm like, Rob, something just told me to answer it. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I put on my ear. And I'm wheeling the person into the hospital. I'm like, what's up, Rob? He like, hey, what's going on, John? And people don't know my first name, John or whatever. So he like, hey, what's going on, John, man? How you doing, man? I'm like, man, I'm good, Rob, man. What made you call me? You know what I mean? He's like, man, I'm just checking on you, man. I ain't talked to you in a while. I'm like, that's strange. He was like, but how you doing, though, man? And when he asked me that question again, something told me, like, damn, do he know? You know what I mean? Like, it felt like he knew for some reason. So I'm like, man, actually, Rob, I ain't doing too good. Mm-hmm. And he was like, what's going on? So I ended up telling him, I'm like, man, I just got evicted, you know what I mean, out my place. And I'm like, I'm just kind of living out my car right now. He was like, man, John, that's crazy, man. You know it's crazy you say that. He was like, there's a lady at, you know, the house that I rent or whatever. She was like, man, I'm looking for a tenant and to fill the house over there on, you know, I ain't gonna say the name of the street, but, you know, and he was like, let me see if that house is still available.
Wow. I'm
like, okay, whatever. So I wheel the person in, I continue the job or whatever, and I get a call back. It's Rob again. He like, hey, John, can you, he was like, man, can you meet me at this address at 10 o'clock tomorrow? And I'm like, I think. So I'm like, let me look at the schedule or whatever. And, you know, we hadn't made the schedule yet. So I'm like, Rob, I'll call you back. So I look at the schedule and I couldn't, you know, it was somebody in there at 10, you know, and I'm like, damn, I can't do it. So I'm like, I call Rob. I'm like, man, Rob, I don't think I can do it. You know what I mean? I said, let's, can we try another day? He was like, yeah, we can try another day, man. But man, I'm afraid she go fill the slot or whatever. So I'm like, all right, but I'm like, I gotta take this trip. It was somebody that was going every day. It was somebody that was going to dialysis or methadone, one of the two.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, Rob, I'll let you know. So that morning, I get up and I call the patient. Hey, Miss Lewis, you know, I'm like, I'm finna come pick you up. She's like, you know what, Mr. Driver, I'm feeling kind of down today. I don't think I'm gonna go.
Wow.
Okay, you ain't going. All right, cool. My next trip ain't to 12.
Perfect.
Right? So I call Rob back like, hey, Rob, I'm like, you still can we still go look at that house? He was like, yeah, let's go. I'll meet you over there. Met Rob over there, looked at the crib. I didn't care if I liked it. It wasn't even about that. I don't even got time. But I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I actually did like it, but that didn't matter. You know what I mean? I'm like, I just got to get out this fucking van. So he said, all right, cool. I liked it. You know what I mean? He gave me the information to submit my application at the time. And I submitted my application. And the lady called me like a day later. And she was like, you know what? Imagine I had a felony on my record at the time, right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't, this is the thing, I couldn't get a regular job anyway. I couldn't just go nowhere. I got a whole felony on my record. So all I could do is like entrepreneur shit anyway. So anyway, she called me like a day later and she was like, yeah, John, I looked at your application, you know, and I seen your record and everything. And she was like, and we had at least 12 qualified, you know, applicants. That was what I would normally take over yours. She was like, but something just told me to give it to you.
Wow.
Something's telling me to give this to you. She was like, am I making a mistake? I said, no. Wow. And she gave it to me, bro.
God, bro.
Number God.
You had been living out the van for 3 days?
Now you go ask me.
and that comes out just like that?
Yeah. Yep. That's how it happened.
Unbelievable, man.
That's how it happened, man.
Man, you see, this is why I like these type of things that we're talking about. Bro, you lost your mother at an early age. Basketball, as far as going to the NBA and doing all that, your dreams of that didn't come about like you thought that it would.
Right.
You had a transportation company, and you didn't even really talk about how successful you were at that.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
but it went down. You
Right.
came up, started making some good money, and then, you know, it went down. It got taken away.
Right.
This is why it's and a part of, I got something I'm announcing later, but it's a part of not giving up.
Right.
We haven't even gotten to what it is that is getting ready to take place.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? But look at all of what you had to go through
Yeah.
to keep going.
Right. No, absolutely.
God was working on you the entire time. You
Whole
can't
time.
make this stuff up.
You can't make it up. You can't make it up at all. And what's so crazy about it is that the money that I owed, that I was trying to pay my old complex that kicked me out, I was 3 months behind, right? And I believe that my rent at the time was like $1,200. So I owed them at least $36, right? And I was trying to pay them that. Mind you, I really only had about $2,200 to my name. You know what I mean? That's what I had at the time. When I got into that house, I didn't even have to put down no security deposit.
Wow.
So I end up paying less to get into a house than I would have paid
For apartment.
to
You gotta
stay.
Wow. Way less to keep the other place that you got kicked out of.
That I got kicked out of, right? So I had a little money, you know what I mean, to play with or whatever, just a little cushion until, you know, we received our next little payout from the little shit we was getting left from transportation at the time.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't much, but ultimately that's what transitioned me into what I'm doing now, which is I just remember one day being in that house, right? And that's when everything kind of started to change. You know, I'm in that new house, and I remember Friday night I was just sitting in the corner of my bed, you know, and I would normally go out on Fridays, and this is the first time I really started finally keeping the Sabbath day. Like, that's a whole nother conversation, right? But I keep the Sabbath day, and that was the first time I actually decided to really do it for real. And I'm bored. I'm like, man, I can't sit in the house on Fridays, man. I'm like, I want to be out, man. There's girls out, it's sunny. You know what I mean? And because it was April. It was like April. Yeah, it was April. I'm scrolling on Instagram, and that's the night I ran into my mentor.
Yep.
That's the night I ran into him. And instantly, I bought his program. Instantly. Something about it, I'm like, I put two and two together. I'm like, I say I want to mass produce a product, don't know what I want to sell. This person is saying he's teaching us how to sell products online. All right, this is my connecting piece on how I'm getting ready to mass produce this, whatever product that I say I want to, you know what I mean?
Same thing you had talked to Eric about.
Same thing I talked to Eric about. So I tell my students all the time, and people that, you know, want to sign up for my program, I say, I was just like you. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just had an imaginary product in my head that I said I wanted to sell.
How much did you start the business with?
I started the business with, I had $300 left.
$300 to your name.
I had $300 left. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And what I did was, I tell people all the time, I sold people what I sold what I did not have. So just to go through it, I followed the program, right? Which was a step-by-step on how to actually start a business online, right? He taught me step-by-step, literally how to do it, right? But it was a few holes in his program. And what I would do is, because there was a few holes in it, I would watch him on live, and then I would look at stuff in his background, and I would screenshot it, and I would see some of the things that he did not say in that program. Now, he didn't do that on purpose. He didn't leave out holes on purpose. He was just so excited to write it that it was like, okay, he just missed a few things, right? So when I wrote my program, I made sure to put those things in that, because those were holes that I know I needed filled, right?
Just to make it more transparent.
Just to make it more transparent. So that's why now it's like, when my students start businesses, most of my students are successful because they come in and all the pain points are already hit. Well, I wanted to sell something, but I don't know what to sell. I show you the top 4 products in the industry, right? well, okay, well, I don't know nothing about labels and things like that. We got a person that's gonna make your labels. A label don't necessarily have you don't have to have a label and a logo. Your logo could be the name of your company.
Right.
It doesn't have to be this fancy wings and all that shit. It can just be the name of the company. It goes straight on the label, right? Okay, you got a label creator. They make the label. Bam, make you an AI generated mock-up of the bottle. People don't buy products that they're see sitting in your warehouse, right? People buy a picture, don't they?
Yep.
That's all they buy. So the reason why I was able to start my business with $300 is because once I got that image of the actual product, I put it on my website and I put a price on it. Now I think I had maybe 15 units of the product that I had at the time. It was like a Slim and Gel. And what happened is people started buying it because I was shown how to market everything, and people started buying it. And guess what? I had over $5,000 in my Shopify account within my first week, right? So guess what I did? Then I went out and bought inventory, right? So I used the money that the first couple of people that bought my product paid, and I went out and bought my inventory with that, right? So that's why I tell people, like, you don't need a whole lot of money to start. You need that fucking information. That's it. You need that information and a picture of your product, and obviously the structure of the business and all of that, but we teach you how to do all that. But that's all you need. You don't need a lot of money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, so you started your brand. You want to share your brand or
I mean, yeah, my brand is Paralift Organic Skincare.
Okay.
You know, that most people, it's been all over the place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had all the Love and Hip Hop girls promoting it and all of that type of stuff, and a lot of different influencers and things like that. So it was all over Facebook, Instagram, and all that type of stuff. But yeah, that's that, man. But I say all that to say, like I said, it's not necessarily about having a whole lot of money. It's just about having the information. And that's what took me ultimately into, like I said, coaching. Right? And teaching people how to do the same thing, and creating other multiple millionaires, right?
Yeah.
From that program. And you know about that because you were a catalyst in that. You helped a lot of my students come along with what it is that we were doing with the marketing and all of that type of stuff. So yeah.
No, that's good, man. And that led right into, you know, me and what a lot of people don't understand is my brand was funded by you. You know, Wealth Green Machine started because you saw a vision where your company was at and where it was trying to go.
Had a need.
And you knew that it needed help to get to the number that you was. Let's be clear. It's gonna get there anyway.
Right.
But you had a goal to make that $1 million
within that
year's time or less.
Right.
You know, and you helped me to, you said, man, you know, Woody, you know,
shit, we sent you to school.
Yeah, literally. You know, so I this is my first mentor on the internet.
Yeah.
That taught me about funnels.
Yeah.
And I learned about ads.
Right.
I learned about all of those things. That shit was $7,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't cheap to learn what it is that I needed to learn that we still use today.
Still use to this day. Yeah.
But we took that information, and that's what helped you scale to get to, I think you was around like 600,000.
I was like 600,000 at that
then,
time. Yeah.
You know? So we jumped to that to get you to that million in that within those last few months.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really our story of how Wealth Green Machine came about. For those of you that don't know,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's how it got started because we had already been doing businesses together. We had already done things and failed. Not necessarily failed. I would call it trials and tribulations with stuff to make us better.
Yeah.
But it was a trust that we knew that can happen to help us get there.
Absolutely. And I say this, like, it's funny that, you know, just bringing this back up and just looking at how we did that with Wealth Green Machine, how, you know, Paralift, you know, needed a company, right? A marketing agency that was going to ultimately take it to that $1 million point. We created that out of thin air.
We did.
We created that out of thin air, right? And that just goes back to what we were just talking about with the whole transportation thing, right? With how when Taylor May went down, we created Arnetta's out of thin air.
Yeah.
And we were able to continue it because of that. So that was just, to me, bro, honestly, what we did and the fact that we're still using that information, that's $7,000 and paid for itself 100 times over.
Big time, without a shadow of a doubt.
100 times over, you know, and
even going into Black Fridays.
Going into Black Fridays, man.
How much did we gross on that one? That was the first time we launched that thing.
Yeah.
With the building up I forgot
the anticipation, the wait list.
The wait list.
The wait list formula. That's what we discovered, that wait list formula.
Yeah.
And I think we was able to do over maybe 35,000 that day.
Yep. Something
like that. We did that with Paralift, and with the coaching program, I think we did around the same.
Yeah.
It was around the same. It was in the $30,000-$40,000 range. And all of that was learned from, what we sent you to school essentially to learn.
Yeah.
Right. And when you built Wealth Green Machine and all of that rolled into it. And what's so crazy is now it's still the same formula we use with coaching.
Yeah.
And we teach our students the same thing. With the coaching. So I want to get into that. Like, we've been doing this so long. We did it with transportation. We did it with Paralift, and we also did it with coaching. So what we started to learn with coaching was that it was important to have somebody to be personable. Somebody talking to the clients in the DM.
Yep.
Right. So me personally, I never liked doing that. I don't like talking inside of my DM because a lot of people don't be serious, right? But talking in the DM to clients are really, really personable. So can you talk to them a little bit about what that's all about?
Yeah. So just like anything, like as far as me having my agency, I was able to help you scale to the millions, and even a lot of the people that we're coaching right now, I've helped them scale their brands to the millions. And after that, it was like, okay, we're in this coaching thing. What can I do to better my craft of now that you're a coach? See, I'm always piggybacking off of something you're doing because it's always ways to make things better.
Right. Absolutely.
We always have to better our craft because time is going. You know what I mean? If you stay where you're at, you'll get left behind.
You get left behind for sure.
And that's when, at that time I wanted to learn something that I could bring to the table that could help us with our coaching a little bit better so we can make money faster, quicker.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's when I led into my mentor, and his name is Mike Barron, and he led me to showing me how much money he was making in DMs, from people messaging him. Right. And it's crazy because there's levels to this money stuff. Like,
man, big time.
Even though it's crazy to say, it's one thing to make $1 million in your company in a year, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to see somebody that is making $1 million monthly.
Monthly, right.
Like, this guy was making $1 million monthly.
Monthly.
How is he doing this?
Right.
What can I take from what it is that he's doing so I can implement it into what it is
right
that we have going on?
Yeah.
And it was, like you said, so you have to pay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It cost me $25,000 to learn his system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when people say, well, it costs too much money. Well, you got to pay to play.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So with your coaching program and what it is, and people are like, it's another coaching program. Man, we have the numbers to show that we can do what it is that we're doing.
Right.
So with the DM setting, what I learned from that is what he had was every time he's posting up certain things, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, he's getting thousands of DMs that are coming into his messages that he personally don't have time to respond to.
Right.
So what he did was he has a team setters of DMs, and they're literally responding to all of these so they can capitalize on every lead that come in.
Right.
Because as we know, everything is a numbers game. Everybody is not going to join what it is that you're offering. But the more people that you get that can come into your system, the more numbers that you have up front leads you to being able to capitalize on it. And that's what DM setting is doing.
Right.
So now we getting into, how I received, you know what I mean, my Rolex watch with your coaching program, because I took that system of what it is that he showed me that cost $25,000 for me to be able to do and to implement it into your coaching program.
Right. You brought it to me.
For a lot of people don't know is I'm that person that's in your DM. They think they're responding to Mike Kimbrough. Mike Kimbrough ain't got time to respond to everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Although he loves everybody, he wants to help everybody.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's going to miss the opportunity of who it is that we have to do to get to him.
Right.
So what DM setting is literally I'm finding out and weeding out the right people to lead to you.
Right.
So we can get the right people in play that are going to take this serious. Not necessarily about money. It's about, are you the right person that are willing to go through something for it to be right?
For it to be right.
You know what I mean? And that's what we do. So that's what DM setting is. And man, when I was in San Diego, and man, you came out there, by surprise, and we was able to gross you to that 100K
right month.
In the first month of me learning this program. So I took the 25 to make 100 to receive a Rolex. Man, that's pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the entire process of what took place.
Yeah.
And those of you that are interested in learning how to do DM setting, that's what I do.
Yeah.
I've learned, man, this dude got a lot of work on his shoulders, and his coaching and everything that he do. I technically, as far as that, don't want to do that, but I'd rather deal with the behind the scenes part of making you more money so I can make money.
Right.
And that's where it comes from for me, because all I got to do is get them people to buy, and I ain't got to deal with it no more. I'm selling his shit. They got to go with him after that. I'm done with it.
And then I got to do the coaching. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what DM setting is. So if you want to learn how to make some money and do that, that's what I got. And that's how I'm able to help this man now. And even, it's crazy, man. Just the other day, we were sitting up at the computer, and we still are doing stuff that was learned 5 years ago.
That was learned from 5 years ago. Yep.
Yep.
And it's still as important to this day as it was then, if even not more important now, because things are changing, and the skills that we have is the skills that a lot of people, still don't have yet. Yeah. We're like 5 years ahead. We're light years ahead of a lot of systems and processes that people have, but we're still light years behind from where some people are at.
Big time.
So, but with the information that we got, that's why it's so important to start, because we're always on the right track of getting the next big thing, because we already are in the arena of what's, what I mean? Like with the AI stuff, right? All of that now, we're incorporating that type of stuff into our funnels, into our landing pages, into our websites, right? Into DM setting, into closing, and all of that type of stuff. They even got a automated AI person booking calls now.
Big time.
You know what I mean? But we wouldn't even understand the language if we wasn't in the lane already on what these people were doing. If you don't ever start, you're gonna always be behind, and it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until it's impossible for you to start that thing that you was trying to start, because there's just no way you can catch up to where people are at now.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, man. And it's crazy, because this we're gonna touch into that just a little bit. And we'll wrap this up here in a minute, but my last question to you now is, okay, so you got this coaching that you're doing, and you're teaching people what it is that you did. You're using different platforms,
right,
to help with that. And we're learning a different avenue.
TikTok
that you're using, and that's TikTok, and how to boost that up.
Right.
And that's something that y'all will learn inside of his coaching program. But so with that, man, how's that doing? You how are you feeling about it? What's next for Mike, man? What's on that? Because hey, y'all, I'm feeding off of him. What's next, man? What's in the line?
Yeah, man. TikTok right now is what I'm guiding all of my students to right now, because I've come up with a formula that is unstoppable, and I showed you that formula, right? And a lot of it came from AI, right? What people don't realize about online businesses is that there's an audience, right, that's interested in every single thing that you can ever sell. You can always find a market. It took me only 15,000 people to make my first $1 million, right? Because it was a market for that. But at that time, it took me to experiment with certain ideas or certain pieces of content that help me find that target audience, right? And to be honest with you, I feel like I got lucky to find that audience right then and right there, right? But what that did is showed me that I paid attention to what happened, and I'm like, okay, that's the market, right? But that was luck. But I took that, I finally figured out what I was doing, and I kind of put it, I kind of stirred it up and I put it in a pot, and I came up with this new formula and said, listen, opposed to waiting for an audience to find me, which means my company, my product, I am going to manufacture that audience myself, right? And the way that I do that is by something I call it the Westbrook effect, right? And what I mean by that is that when Russell Westbrook, those of you who don't know,
I thought you was talking about
yeah, Russell Westbrook, he's a basketball player. He used to play for OKC. He was he got the triple double title, right? He got the most triple doubles in history, beat out Oscar Robertson. And what people were saying that he was doing at the time, they were saying that in order for him to get so many triple doubles, he would shoot a shot, he would miss it on purpose just to get another rebound within that same possession. So he would get 2 rebounds in the same possession and get a basket, right? So 2 rebounds, 2 points, whatever. So they said he was doing that. Whether he was doing that or not, I thought about something for a second. I said, well, Westbrook was padding his own stats, right? So if he's padding his own stats to make his stats look more presentable on paper, that's what a company needs to do in order for them to look more presentable on paper, right? So what I did was I came up with this formula where I would essentially pad my own stats. And what I mean by that is that TikTok goes off of a point system, right? And they show your content, no matter what it is, to X amount or more thousands of people according to every single one of these points that's hit, right? So those points are comments, likes, saves, shares, purchases, shipments, deliveries, and reviews.
Okay.
Right? For every single one of those points, TikTok is going to show your content to another X amount of I don't know how many thousand people that is. I haven't figured that part out yet. I'm trying to come to, I'm going to figure it out. But I haven't figured that out yet. But what I have figured out is that if you have an audience, right, if you manufacture an audience to do that, then you make TikTok's algorithm think that people are interested in that product, right? So then they take those people that you used and then they start looking for like-minded, more people that's just like the people that you sent there to do those 8-point acts.
Oh, man.
Do you see what I'm saying?
This sounds like a matter of time.
do you see what I'm saying?
I get it. Yes, sir.
So when you first sign up for a TikTok shop, what's happening is that they're side-eyeing you, right? They like, is this a real company? Somebody do something else. Somebody purchase. Okay, let me see if this company is legit. Let me see if they're going to ship this product. You ship the product. Okay, cool. It gets delivered. Wow, okay. Every single time one of those acts are happening, they're sending it out to more people because TikTok makes money off of you.
Yep.
So if they're looking at you and saying you are a reputable business, they're like, let's push this out more because we make a percentage of every single sale that happens. So by the time it gets to somebody leaving a review, they're like, okay, we good to go. This is not a scam. Your product rating ends up going up, right? When your product rating goes up, your product ends up going to the top of TikTok shop for that particular product. So if somebody, let's say you're selling nitric oxide, right? For nitric oxide, if you get those reviews and your product gets up to like a 4.8 rating, you're going to be the top nitric oxide product that pops up when people look for that particular product.
Wow.
Right? So, but that was manufactured by me, and I created an agency that does that for every single company that I start now. And that's why it's a guarantee to make at least $10,000 to $20,000 a month.
Come on, man.
Right now, what I want to do is make sure they have the link for your DM setting program.
Right.
So we're gonna drop the link. It's gonna be at the bottom of this YouTube video. So if you wanna start a DM set, you want to become a DM setter, and he already explained to you what that is. He DM sets for coaches like me, right? And he gets a percentage. So if you want to make a percentage of what a coach is making, right, off of their program. So hypothetically, if we got a program that was, $500 or anywhere between $500 to $10,000, you can make 10 to 25% of each one of those closes just by hopping in people's DMs. So that link is right here at the bottom. And also, if you want to start an online business from scratch or you want to get your business built, that's exactly what I do. But it goes hand in hand. Me and him work hand in hand. So that's my wrap.